You're listening to Supervision with a Vision, where we discuss all things supervision. I'm your host, Sarah, professional counselor, marriage and family therapist, play therapist, eating disorder specialist, and cookie lover, with my co-host, Heather, marriage and family therapist, certified Together in Texas counselor, a Texas transplant from California, and outdoor adventurer. Hi, welcome to Supervision with a Vision. Today, Heather and I are talking about losing the human touch in counseling. We read The Loss of Our Humanness in Counseling Today 2023. Now, Heather, this article was really talking about the way that our healthcare system provides care for people. And you and I are thinking about how counseling is impacted by some of the same things.
Right.
So the first point was the value of making a connection.
Right. It's especially more difficult as we use more and more technology.
Right.
Especially if we're doing virtual sessions, to really have that connection. I kind of have a standing rule for myself. It's not written or publicized anywhere, but I don't prefer to do virtual therapy unless I already know the client, or at least they've been to my office a couple of times, because I'm looking for that connection.
Right. So that's how you're trying to make that happen. I wonder if we can think about or describe what that is to us. What is it? So you're saying it's something that you feel like you can't get online. You can get it when you meet someone. What is it that you can get online? Or I'm sorry, the other way around.
Right. I think, and I will say it's doable online. I just don't think it's the same. I think there's a barrier up when you're online, but it's sometimes you don't need to worry about it. But for me, I like to have that connection with clients where they seem more relaxed when they come into a different space. Sometimes if you're doing virtual therapy and they're in the environment where some of the hard things are, they can't completely unwind. They can't completely have a safe space.
I think, what if I said, I'm thinking about when I first started doing a lot of telehealth, and prior to COVID, I think I'd had one person that I met with virtually, and it was hard. I didn't like it. So when I started meeting virtually, I remember that my neck muscles would really hurt at the end of the day, and my head would hurt, and it was a different kind of a headache that I couldn't identify.
Right.
And my eyes hurt. And noticing that and trying to like adjust my chair and adjust where the screen was and all those things. And I think it took me a couple of weeks to realize I was being so effortful in trying to convey myself over the screen that I was kind of leaning in, that I would like my facial expressions were a lot bigger, which was what the headache was about.
You're trying to strain to see if you can see their facial things or changes.
So, I through that thought about that the value that I felt like I was missing, definitely in those first couple of weeks, was both what I'm communicating and what I'm receiving.
Right, both ends.
And so it felt like this big disconnect, and then I was working so hard to overcome having to be on screen that it literally hurt.
Right.
So I think it's me expressing me,
and then it's also being able to take in them, like what they need to, or what we need to assess from them.
Right. And so on the first side, me expressing me, I think, or my worry was that I could be misunderstood.
Yes.
Because people wouldn't catch the expression or catch the tone. And so that was uncomfortable to me. So there's value in that to me. And more than just my words or my expression, that maybe I would joke, and that could be misunderstood, right? Or that just the full, the big picture of me would be missed,
right?
I think I still have a couple of kids actually that I work with and have never met in person.
Have never come in,
and just this past Christmas, I saw two kids that I've never gotten to see in person, but because it was Christmas and school was out that week, they came in. And I remember even then still, I think, feeling disconnected or wanting to prep them. So I told them a little bit about coming. And I told them about the office a little bit. I told them that my dog comes to the office with me. And then I don't know if I was preparing them or protecting myself. I told them, I think that you're going to be surprised when you see me in person.
Oh.
And they were.
Mm-hmm.
One of the kids is a girl, and she is kind of preteeny, 13,
Okay.
and has definitely already hit a growth spurt.
Right.
And so she walked in and looked down
To look at you.
and I told her beforehand.
Right. You're like, I'm just giving you a warning.
I knew, I could tell from she and I meeting on camera that that was true. But she was surprised. She was sweet about it, but it still felt like a disconnect that we didn't know each other in that way.
Right.
And I think then on the other side too, that me wanting to really understand them or really feel like I know them or feel like I'm making a connection with them is also hard. And I think I'd probably do different things or try to accommodate in order to meet that need. But to me, it's hard.
Yeah, it is trickier for sure. There is another like layered element when you're trying to connect virtually, because you're not getting just to see almost like it's because it happens for them too, right? They're on camera talking to you. And especially at the beginning, I would have clients be like, so still. And they'd be like, are they even breathing? Like they're so still. They felt uncomfortable with like how it was working. And I think that all of that goes away when you're meeting in person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think this is true of me. I would think that a lot of counselors think that this is true of them. There is a quality in what I do that isn't about what I know.
Correct. That's perfectly described. Yes.
And that if that's missed, then we're missing a huge part of what counseling is.
Right.
So I can know a whole lot of theories and the names of a bunch of old guys that made stuff up, but to be with me in a room, you feel empathy, or you feel what I'm feeling, or you feel my reaction.
Right.
And that's missed if you aren't making a connection.
Right.
Okay, the next point in the article was to notice or see uniqueness in each person. So if we're the people who are the helpers, what's the importance of noticing each person or seeing the differences in each person?
I think part of it is about what each person, I'm going to say tolerate. That is probably not the exact word I want to use, but knowing which each side of it can tolerate as far as like changes or shifts or different things that happen in therapy as progress happens in therapy, it could be very different. Even if you have similar.
So as if we're the helpers and you're saying like, if we're looking for change or we're looking for differences, that being able to, the connection that you have with someone helps you to notice those differences.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
I was thinking the other way around, or the, like kind of the
inverse.
Flip side of that, that if we're noticing the uniqueness in other people, does that mean that we're like changing for each one of those people? Or we are different? Or we interact differently for each person because they're different?
I think we probably do change a little bit, right? Like a little bit. Because obviously, if I'm talking to a 17-year-old girl, it's probably really different than how I talk to a married people, just in context of therapy. But also, it shouldn't be so far off your normal personality that it would be weird. Like, you shouldn't be playing a character, I guess is what I'm saying.
Right.
Shouldn't be, they should still think, oh, yeah.
Okay, so like generally, all of my clients would describe me in generally the same way.
Right.
That they would all say, Sarah's kind of goofy, and
she does this one funny thing when
Oh, that's a good Like, do you know Sarah's thinking face? And they could probably all do the thinking face. So they're not missing like who I am, but I might adjust to be understood by them.
Correct.
Maybe.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it.
I think that idea and the idea that we're talking about is complicated for a supervisee.
Yes, very complicated. I think for a supervisee, they're like trying to find their place, and a lot of them have I don't want to do it wrong. And if you don't want to do it wrong, then you have this pressure on yourself to do it right, and that gets in your way sometimes of just being who you are. I mean, Think about the clients that will walk into your space and immediately take off their shoes, put their bag down, and like flop on your couch.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that's still you. Even the next client that comes in, they would never act that way, but you would still respond to them the same way. Hi, welcome. How's your week? You know.
Yeah, I have supervised, I can think of a handful of people that I supervised that weren't really confident in that or didn't know how to handle that and did try to change or adjust for each person.
Okay.
I think you and I both had an example of this. A supervisee that dressed differently.
Oh, yes.
Because they thought that's what they were supposed to do, but it really made them not themselves.
Right.
And made them feel uncomfortable in who they were, but they thought they were trying to meet the needs of the client or be sensitive to the client.
Correct.
But really, they probably would have done better to be themselves.
Right. Just be yourself.
Okay. So that, I think that leads us to our last point, which is find your own balance.
Correct.
When I think of that, I think of, this could happen with any theory, the application of any theory. And if you're trying to do it the way you saw it on a video when you were in school, it's not going to,
it's not going to be you.
Yeah,
it's not going to,
it's going to fall flat.
Right.
Another way I describe this when I'm talking to somebody about a play therapy activity or an art directive is that, I think maybe in one of my first jobs, I did so many experiential things that the other counselors were always asking me, like, "Oh, what's that? What are you doing
today?
Right? Where'd you get that idea? Can I borrow it?" And when they would want to borrow my activities or ideas, I would say, "I mean, you can, but it would be like me telling you how to paint a painting.
Right? It's not.
You have to paint your own painting." So you can use my
idea.
Right. Like, you can borrow my feelings checkers, but probably when you play feelings checkers with someone, it's just going to be a little bit different than when I do it.
Right.
Or if you borrow my book that has a lot of art directive ideas, the way that you've seen me use it will end up being a little bit different than the way you use it. So how do you have any examples of how you have worked to find your own balance, or maybe what time when you did it?
I had a similar situation when I was, I don't know. Before I was a supervisor, I was part of a group, I'll call it like an intervention group for different things, for different techniques to use. And we only met like once or twice, maybe a semester if you're looking at a school calendar. But I always found it to be like the most like frustrating thing when you'd see like the perfect thing demonstrated, right? Your professor or colleague comes in and they give you this great idea and this is how you should play Jenga with these questions on it. And immediately my brain's like, tell me the questions. I need to know all those questions. What questions are on your Jenga? Instead of just thinking through like, well, their questions aren't going to give me the information I want. The questions need to be my questions that I would ask clients, not what my supervisor or what my colleague would put on, because they may not make the most sense.
Right. I think this was very, very early on. I don't think I was even seeing any clients at all, even in school. No practicum, nothing. I think I was just observing someone for a class. And the whole assignment was you go observe, then you ask, I'm getting to know a counselor kind of interview questions, and then write some kind of paper about it. And my paper, I think, I did not communicate well in my paper, but what I basically said was, that counselor seemed weird, and I don't think I would do that. And I think that was true.
Right. It seemed weird.
For me, that would have been a weird fit, and it would not have worked for me to do that. It doesn't mean that it didn't work for them.
Correct.
So I think that it did. Looking back, I think, well, if I ended up interacting with that counselor a little bit more, shadowing a little bit more. And so I got to watch them do more things and realized, oh, that's perfectly reasonable for them. Or that makes total sense that that's how they responded, or that that's the activity they chose. Also, still seems weird if I'm going to do that.
Right.
I don't think
It wouldn't be you.
Right. And that's the part that I didn't know how to communicate in my paper. Was not that person did anything wrong. It just wasn't the way that I was going to end up being a counselor, the style that I would take. Have you ever worked for an agency or in a situation where they told you what theory or what model to use?
I've never worked for anybody that told me what model to use, but I have worked for an agency where they told us what we weren't allowed to do. And it was all the stuff that I love to do with clients. Like we weren't allowed to make messes, and we were working with kids. Well,
they weren't.
Right. I was like, I don't actually know how to work with kids without allowing space for a mess.
Yeah.
Like I just don't know how
you're not like encouraging a mess,
right.
But they happen.
Right. It's normal and it happens. And sometimes you could be playing with something you think is not going to make a mess, but guess what?
Yeah. I think I have worked in places where there was a manual and this is week 3, session 2.
You're checking it off the checklist. Yeah.
And even probably when I was first learning EMDR and the idea of a protocol, that felt so limiting and not like me.
Right.
That was an adjustment at least. Now knowing more about EMDR, feeling more comfortable with it, protocol's kind of a harsh word for it. I don't know.
Right.
I would call it a protocol. That sounds like a script.
Right.
And it's not that, so it's more flexible than that. But I do think even when I'm given a script or a manual or something to follow, I end up interjecting myself into it. So it is more of a balance.
Right.
It does feel more like me.
Well, and you look now that you have more experience and you've had a number of supervisees and a number of clients to come through. You're like, okay, I'll do it this way this time because it might be more appropriate to fit what the client needs, but also more appropriate for where I want, like what I'm looking for right now.
So you and I definitely, and we think that most other counselors would also value the connection. The other steps involved in this, I think we're saying take time and practice and finesse.
Right. It really takes a lot of finesse, I would say.
Yeah. Thanks today for listening to Supervision with a Vision. Heather and I want to hear about unique ways that you work to connect with people. And always, we would love to hear episode suggestions. Thanks.